Who here would like to share their story? Perfect. Can we get a microphone over here? Is that okay? Thank you.
There you go.
Do you want to stand up for me? Thank you.
It'll be my pleasure. Thank you.
Actually,
Good morning,
you know
everybody.
what? Can we give him a round of applause? Why don't you come join me?
Yes. Thank you, everybody. I just flew in from the States, and boy, my arm's tired. So I try not to do too many accounting jokes. I always say if you're getting excitement from accounting, that's not good for you. Thank you. Here is the story that I told. I had a client come to us in November 16, and the situation is that this person started a business when they were 17. Now they're 52. Built this business from just a couple $100,000 to millions of dollars. And the accounting firm that he had all during this time as he grew up in the business didn't really keep up with changes in the tax code or technology, and they were still practicing as if it was 1986. And for my fellow U.S. compatriots here, 1986 was a big year because that was when this huge tax law came into being. They come to us, and I'm interviewing them, and I'm onboarding them and learning about their business. And it turns out that they don't have an accounting system. It's all in the guy's head. Now, his son, who was 23, was coming into the business, and he had a little facility with Excel. And by the way, neither of these people have college degrees, and it just goes to show that you can be highly intelligent without that little paper after that just says you paid money to some university. So I said, look, there's been a little bit of development in accounting in the last 20-some years. I'm going to put you on zero. I'm going to get you into the cloud, and you're going to have financial statements. It's going to take a little while. You got a big business. But we did. And so after about 18 months, I was finally felt comfortable that the balance sheet was up to date, the feeds were working, and I showed them a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement for the first time. They'd never seen this. And I had to teach them how to read it. And then they said, well, this is great and all, but we're paying you this monthly fee, and we don't really see the value in it. And then I said, just keep going with it. Trust me on this. Shortly thereafter, they got a love letter from the Comptroller of Maryland's office. So the Comptroller of Maryland is like the IRS for the state of Maryland. And they were getting audited. And so that's when they realized that they needed an accounting system. And ever since that point, so this is 2019, they've grown exponentially. And so now they're getting into a position where the elements of the tax code that normally affects bigger businesses, that's starting to impact them. And then he said to me, he's like, yeah, we weren't really sure about coming on with you, but looking back, like, this is the greatest decision we ever made. We love this product, we love working with you, and we want to add some advisory services. So that'll be kicking live on January 2nd.
Great, thank you.
And they asked for a higher fee.
So would you mind hanging in with me?
It would be my honor, thank you.
Perfect, okay. So first, who thought that story was great?
Flatter will get you everywhere.
How long did you feel like you were telling that story for?
What do you mean?
How long do you think it took you to tell that story?
A few minutes.
How long did it seem to you guys? A few minutes? 5 minutes? Okay. You said that you wanted to cut to the chase. Did you feel that that was because everybody here was getting bored?
If I may digress, about a month ago, I was tasked, I'm on a professional society, I'm on the board of directors for the Maryland Society of Accounting and Tax Professionals, and we had arranged some people from the Virginia Department of Taxation to do a seminar for our members. And about a week in advance, they said, oh, we can't leave the state of Virginia. So the executive director was in a panic. She had to find a speaker. So I said, I'll do it. Because I like, I'm an accountant, I like pain. So I'm in this room, and I'm teaching about Virginia income tax law. And I see the people about where Tracy is, and she's, sorry to pick on you. They're like nodding off right in front of me. So I said, okay, stand and stretch time, but don't leave the room, it's for credit. So I try to read the room.
Okay, so thank you for sharing. So, okay, So here's the thing. How long were my stories? They went longer than 5 minutes, right? Some of them. Most of you weren't nodding off. Here's why. People love stories. But when we're telling a story, it feels like we're telling a 20-minute story every minute that we tell it.
Yes, it does.
So because of that, a lot of times in our heads, we're screaming, going, God, get to the point. Because we're worried that we're making the customer bored. We're trying to be mindful of their time. Here's the thing. I could give you some functional information that I could be done in 30 seconds. But you won't remember it, so I've wasted your time. But if I embed all that information into a story, it could take 15 minutes, but you spent 30 minutes coming here, 30 minutes. I mean, you guys have spent a long time coming here, right?
Yeah, 22 hours.
It's terrible to come from the US. Luckily enough, these guys flew me in a few days earlier because jet lag's terrible. So here's the thing. You've traveled all this way not to hear what I have to say, but to remember it and to apply it. If I embed it into a story, my chances of that happening are higher. As an accounting firm, these people will go 30 minutes each way. They've probably spent all this time doing the internet thing, you know, best accountant in blah, blah, blah city. They open up 10 tabs, go, nope, 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 these 3, read the information, pick you. They come and see you and they don't remember a thing you said. But if you tell a story, we feel like we're being self-indulgent.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not the truth. The truth is they need to hear this story because for the first time, you're making the information tangible. They're going to walk out feeling like they get it. So never feel like your stories are too long, right? Fill your 30-minute meeting with 3 5-minute stories as opposed to 25 minutes of things where you've got to buy them a coffee halfway through to wake them back up. Okay, so let's evaluate this story. Firstly, I thought it was a good story. I mean, cool guy. I didn't even know that people could still get away with, you know, doing their books in pen and paper and in your head. Okay, so I thought it was a good story. Did you feel like it was concise? To you guys, not to you because you didn't think so, but to you guys, did you think it was concise? I thought it was. I mean, you know, if you were sitting there for 30 minutes, I would have had to ask you to stop. But, you know, it was a couple of minutes long. I felt like it was super concise and it got a load of information across. So what about the next one? Did you speak to the customer's emotions?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
So my opening script that I practice is whenever someone comes into the office, I always say, thank you for coming in. It's, you know, if it's a referral, I always say, oh, Joe Schmo is a really nice person, been working for him a long time. I always say thank you. And then I say, so what prompted you? Like, what's happening in your life? What occurred in your business that prompted you to reach out for a CPA? And then I don't say anything. And then if they hem and haw or they can't answer, I say, okay, that's too open-ended. Then I say, so I can speak to you, I can talk you under the table about this code section or that accounting technology, but what is it that's really keeping you awake at night? And then they usually go from there.
So what we're doing there is we're asking for them to talk about their unique experience.
Right.
But that's not the person's story. So, you know, when some people will get on the phone with me, and my phone call will always be, because I want them to know I've done my research, I just want to check in on them. So I will say at the start of every meeting, you know, while I've had a chance to look over your website, and obviously I've checked, you know, all the details that you left me in the email correspondence that we've had, what I would love to know is exactly where you're at now, what you're struggling with, and how I can be the most help to you in the 30 minutes that we have together today. And then they give me this avalanche of information that I can use as sales opportunities or to coach and offer advice, right?
Right.
However, what we're talking about is in the isolation of just this one story. Did you talk about this guy who's been using paper-based books? Did you talk about his emotions?
In my story?
In the story you just shared with everybody.
I feel like I missed that. If I could go back again, I would have added a detail about it.
Perfect. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions so we can really bolster this out. Now, are we okay? One of the biggest things, because we're recording this, one of the biggest things that I get asked all the time is, gosh, I wish I had this recorded because I would have used this with my clients. So the benefit of getting up here is I'm going to tell you back your story in a minute. Okay. But I'm going to tell it after asking you a few questions, and then you can get that transcribed and you can use it with your customers when you get back to Washington.
Thank you.
Okay? So first thing I want to ask you is, so this is a guy, he's been in business for, I tried to do the math quickly, but I've forgotten now. So he started when he was 17, he's now
55 now.
55. So 38 years in his business, right? How many people survive 38 years in business? Tiny, right? Do you think he's proud of that?
Very.
Like, he's achieved something that nobody else really gets to do. Like, the failure rate is like 95%. And then 5 years later, it's like 95% of those go broke. I mean, you guys are in accounting. You know how quickly you get a client and how quickly they decide they're going to go back and get a day job because it's just not worth it. 38 years. Sense of pride, right? Do you think he has to hustle to get where he is?
Yes.
Do you think, now what happened? Why did he change accountants?
They were being poorly served.
How did he know that, though?
They weren't returning his phone calls, but it was his son who was driving that.
So did he feel, like, has he had the same accountant for 38 years?
Yeah.
Did he feel betrayed by his past accountant that just wasn't providing the service? Or was he embarrassed that his son was calling him out on that?
It was more like he wanted, so this gets into our niche. I'm putting this together in my head as I've been going through all the sessions. Our niche is in succession. Mm-hmm. So, you know, my father is transitioning to me. All of our clients are transitioning to their adult children. And this same story that keeps repeating is father or mother starts a business transitioning to their child. And the father was proud of his son for taking over, and it was his son that was driving this. The son was calling, and the guy's like, oh, you're a kid. I'll see your father in April.
Okay, so the son was frustrated.
Yes, it was the son who was frustrated.
So the son was feeling like he's trying to take over this business and he's trying to impress dad, and all these people who he's paying
yes.
are not appreciating his value.
Yes.
And you understand this stuff.
Yes.
Do you think that's important to the story? Absolutely. Okay, so now the part of the story where he was worried about getting tax audited, he didn't understand the value of the numbers. Right. And the balance sheets, and you said just hang with it, and then they got audited.
Yes, it was,
right?
You can't plan this stuff. You can't write this. It just happened.
Well, he was really lucky though, right? Because if you had gone in with his, oh, it's in my head, trust me, good luck with that.
They would have taken him.
Is it nice though that these days, I mean, Xero, you can like put the receipt up, like all these cloud bases, you can upload the receipts, makes it super easy, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the son would have appreciated the ease of that?
Yeah.
The safety of feeling like everything's in one spot?
More so than that. Like, we're a small practice. We couldn't even handle an account like that without the software. It allows us to punch above our weight and compete with the bigger firms.
I'm assuming that keeps your costs down, right?
Yes.
It allows you to be more agile?
Yes.
It allows you to get access to information much faster than everyone else?
Yes.
Makes you have access to global teams that can do all the work and heavy lifting for you while still paying a premium for your advice?
We have 5 people, including our one TOA person who's 20% of our workforce.
Wow, impressive. Do you think that that allows you to be more focused on how to be a better accountant rather than just the bookkeeping stuff?
Yes.
Do you think that's an advantage over other people in Washington?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me afterwards, though, because we got past the whole auditing thing, and then he said, but I'd really like some advice from you, right? Some more sophisticated advice.
Right.
What was that advice?
They want, I want to be careful. I don't want to, this is being recorded. I don't want to give certain information away. In the beginning, you know, my inner salesman wants to sell everything. But what I find is you really have to invest in that relationship and let it build and grow. And so eventually, he knew that we offered this. He wasn't ready to sign up for it in the beginning. So after they had gone through this experience, after they'd been with us and they got comfortable, then they came back and said, I know you told me about this in the beginning. I want to add it. And that's where we're going to use an app called Futurely to snap in all the different holdings, their operating companies, their passive real estate holdings, so I can give them a dashboard, and from there they can do some tax planning, which is something that they've always resisted.
So now he feels like these numbers gives him an advantage, so he doesn't have to stress out on, you know, July 1st that he's got a bill coming in that he wasn't expecting.
Yeah, April 15th, but yes.
Oh, that's, sorry. US, I'm sitting here going, they're all Australians. No, I've invited the only American up on stage. Okay, so now let's talk about the next one. Did you speak about how the customer is now better off after the implementation? I think we definitely covered that. Yep, okay. What was the moral of the story? You can only use the information you actually said to everybody here. What was the moral that you conveyed?
It's more than, like, the accounting is the commodity. It's that relationship and building trust and being patient, meeting them where they are and guiding them to where they need to be.
Is that the moral everyone else got? Or you better do this or one day you'll get audited and life's going to suck for you?
Nah.
Okay, so, but in truth, all the numbers that you gave him now allow him to plan more effectively, gives him an extra sense of calm and safety, and allows him to grow his business in a way that he feels safe, that things aren't going to go horribly wrong.
Right.
Right. Okay, so what we have, by the way, what was the customer's name?
I don't want to say that.
Make up a different name then.
ABC Construction.
Well, no, person. Let's call him Trevor, okay?
Trevor.
Trevor and his son Pete. Good Australian
Trevor and
names.
Pete, yeah.
Okay. So when Trevor first came to me, he had a problem. For nearly 38 years, he'd been effectively building his business, and he'd done amazingly well. I mean, what businesses do you know that last the test of time? 38 years. Gosh, he deserved to be proud. And finally, he got the opportunity to pass on the keys of this business to his son, who God, he was so proud of. And he started to walk his son through all of these different systems and the things that he did. And Pete loved the idea of taking on his dad's business. I mean, for years, he was dying to have this opportunity. Unfortunately, though, Pete started to reach out to their long-term accountant, Sarah. Sarah was dodging his calls. And he felt uncomfortable about the fact that Sarah was dodging his calls, because one day he's got to be completely in charge of this business. And he didn't want to go to his dad and say, hey, Dad, Sarah's not returning my calls. And he was trying to take charge, and Sarah was getting in the way of doing that. Now, one of the things that we specialize in is succession planning, because we've actually been through it. My dad built his business over how many years?
46.
46 years. And for years, I was ecstatic about the fact that I got the opportunity to one day take it over. But it's a unique thing, succession planning. If you're lucky enough to have a child that you can pass it on to, it's such a proud time for the parent, but such a terrifying time for the child, because they want to believe that they can do it, but they've always put their father on a pedestal or their mother on a pedestal and known that one day they were going to have to do it. And you want to make sure that every single thing is in place to allow that person to be successful when they do it. And Sarah was getting in the way of that. And we make sure that that never happens. So when, and I've forgotten what their names are, Trevor came to us.
Trevor and Pete.
When Trevor came to us, notice it's about a person. When Trevor came to us, we helped them understand that we get it. And firstly, because we get it, we're in a unique place where we can help with that transition. But secondly, while 38 years is an amazing time to be in business, we also help them understand that while their past accountant hadn't perhaps kept up to date on things, which maybe that's why they were dodging the calls, they were terrified of being caught out, we knew that with the changes in tax law that, happened 30 years ago, things could go horribly wrong if they were ever to get audited. Now, the last thing we want to do is ever fearmonger and worry you about audits, but in truth, it does happen. So we knew that we had to work with his son to get all of the accounting systems up to date. And the one thing that we pride ourselves on is being able to embrace all these new technologies and help with those transitions, because more often than not, the successful businesses have done what they've always done to be successful. But when there's a change of guard, we need to make sure that they can do what they're always going to do in the future to remain successful. And these days, the technology age is really taking over. And we want to make sure that they have all the tools that they need to be successful. So we sat down with them and we helped them understand the importance of moving everything into the cloud. Now, to Dad, that was a terrible idea. But to the son, you could tell inside his head he was jumping up and down. Finally, we were going to bring the business into the future, and he felt like that was something he could hold on to and really drive the charge with. And for the first time, he felt like he had more control than his dad in the business. So we worked with them over a period of 1.5 years. We got them their balance sheets. We got everything up to date. And the great thing is, because we have a global team, we can focus our time on doing the high-level stuff local in Washington, making sure the strategy's right, but getting the grunt work done in a much more cost-effective way, which allows us to really focus on the high-level skills while making sure that the low-level stuff is done as quickly, efficiently, and correct as possible. Well, anyway, long story short, you can't plan this stuff. But about that time, they got a notification that they were going to get audited. Now, Dad, as proud as he would still have been a confronting letter to find out, because it was all up in his head, and they wouldn't have passed. Luckily enough, he trusted us, he had faith in us, and we had everything ready for the audit, and the audit went swimmingly. As a matter of fact, because of that, finally Dad's on board to try some of the other future planning stuff. And I'm ecstatic to say, now, He no longer has to have that anxiety. You know that anxiety that everybody gets around the time that they realize how much tax they've got to pay? Well, now we're using an amazing tool called Futurely that allows us to plan that so at no time any information they have to worry about. They don't have to worry about any of this. Now, both dad and the son finally feel in control of their business, and they can start to explore opportunities without worrying about cash flow associated with tax liabilities that could pop up that they weren't prepared for. So while I perfectly understand you may be in a situation where you're really happy with your current accountant, as you're going through a succession plan, I would suggest that we are by far the only firm in Washington that really gets what you're going through and also have the ability to transition what's worked for you for 38 years into what's going to work for your son for the next 38. See the difference?
Yes, thank you. That was brilliant.
Thank you for joining. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, that story had nothing to do with accounting. As a matter of fact, I could have removed talking about the tool completely. Nobody would have cared. What they cared about was that this one accounting firm understands the transition of moving from father to son. That you understood the fact that he should be proud that he's done it for 38 years because he doesn't want to get caught out and have his son find out he did things wrong. It's just things are changing, and that's why you're putting your son in place, because he's going to do new things and we need to make sure he's in place to do so. It's about showing that you understand the customer's emotions, what they're going through. The number one key, remember how I said, what's the rule? It's not about you. It's about them and what they're going through. The number one key to sales success is not telling them about your products, why you're uniquely placed. The first step is helping them understand that you understand them. And if you focus in on one niche, because you work with so many people in that niche, you'll understand them better than they know themselves. And that's going to give you a huge advantage. People will walk out of a meeting with you going, I don't care what they cost. That guy, that girl, they get me. And I know that they're the right choice for me moving forward. That's everything. After that, they'll be willing to listen. Nobody cares about what you can do for them until you show them that you understand them, and then they'll care. And that's why these stories are so important.